back to my channel. Welcome to another Vlogmas video. So today I want to kind of address something I get asked a lot. Is my this or that because of Turner's? Or could Turner's cause this? While yes, you do want to look at each individual thing and see how likely it might be that it's connected, I also get a little conflicted on how to answer that. So I thought I would give a little bit of a general thought here. I get conflicted with how to answer those questions. One, because obviously I'm not a medical professional. I am not the expert. I am merely sharing my experiences and the stories and experiences that I have heard from others. And by no means should you think of me as an expert or think of my advice as medical advice. Always seek the advice of a medical professional. However, that being said, my thoughts in general, just my opinion based off of what I've heard, what I've seen, what I've personally experienced in that regard is twofold. My first answer is, well, there's a whole lot of other symptoms or things that aren't listed when you Google under Turner syndrome as a symptom that I wouldn't be surprised if Turner syndrome affected that in some way, because the basis of Turner syndrome, with it being a genetic condition, is it literally could manifest in so many different ways. So it could affect almost anything, and it does. You hear varying degrees of different areas affected in the stories that you hear. So on one side of things, those questions I'm always like, well, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, nothing would shock me at this point for what Turner syndrome could impact in some way. Whether it fully caused it or you would have had some predisposition to that anyways is a whole other part of the story to look at. But the other side of me says, well, but not everything is Turner's. Just because I have Turner's doesn't mean everything about me is because of Turner's. And I think there's a very gray area and a fine line that you walk. For me, as I've experienced in my life, trying to navigate determining for you how Turner's impacts your life, it's easy to be a little nitpicky with yourself. It's easy to pick apart piece by piece every little thing and say, oh, is that Turner's? Could that be Turner's? What would that have been? Like, is that Turner's? To anything and everything that comes up. We want to be careful. I have to discipline myself a lot in this area because I am very, very nitpicky with myself. And you want to strike that balance between being realistic on the way Turner's impacts you in whatever ways it does, but you also don't want to nitpick yourself into Turner's is the reason for everything about you, and so it becomes, because of that, everything you are, right? Like, it's in absolutely everything. I've said before, a healthy mentality that we can have trying to navigate what Turner's throws at us is, yeah, it's a part of me. It's not all of me. I have a whole lot else about me that contributes to who I am beyond having Turner syndrome. There's a whole lot of things. So I go back and forth, particularly with those questions where it's just connected enough that I'm like, well, yeah, probably, based off of what I've seen. But again, who knows? So it's things like that. You got to strike the balance of what's just you and what maybe is more directly caused by Turner syndrome. My infertility. Yes, my height. The shape of my neck. My hormones. those are things that I directly connect to Turner syndrome. And for good reason, for my medical history. There are other things that I have extra risk for from Turner syndrome, but that I also have extra risk for in family history of outside of that. So I probably would have had a risk of that or predisposition to that anyways. The level of it, who can say, but it would have been there regardless. It's easy to get yourself caught up in it. And I just encourage you, when you're thinking, oh, is this Turner syndrome? Is that Turner syndrome? Be cautious and just keep yourself aware of the thought process you're in and making sure that you're keeping that balance in mind. There's a bigger picture besides you have Turner syndrome for your medical history even. There's family medical history. There's so much that plays into all of it. And Turner syndrome is something that it's easy to take yourself in those circles because it is something that is so unpredictable and could look and influence a million different things. Just be cautious. Yes, we all ask those questions, always. And those are my two biggest answers, honestly. Unless it's something that's a little more directly connected, it becomes a gray area that is intriguing. And certainly is nice to compare stories and maybe try to wrap your head around, but you don't want to drive yourself crazy with it. And I know I have those tendencies where I get nitpicky that way. And so while I would never say don't ask those questions, just like I always suggest, be intentional and keep aware of what your mindset is. And that's probably what my first advice is to anybody that has just gotten a diagnosis, whether it's you yourself have Turner syndrome or your child has Turner syndrome. That is the first thing I tend to say is just keep your mindset intentional and aware. Like, keep the context forefront, because otherwise it'll overwhelm you like that. And it makes it all that more difficult when it can be an already, even when all you're looking at is hard facts of your situation, overwhelming. You know, Turner syndrome is overwhelming enough. Sometimes I get in my own way and make it more overwhelming than it needs to be for me. So as we are looking at things, because I know I tend to do this, I thought I would share kind of my thought process when I get those questions or when I ask those questions, and what my general kind of feeling on it is. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that helped you process a little bit. I hope that gave you some good food for thought. I hope that was encouraging. And I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And I hope you enjoyed this and it was helpful. If you did, and it was, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed and have notifications on. I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.